How's it going, everyone? Shifty here, and today I want to talk about the armor and weapons that the vendors have available this week. For those of you who are familiar with my channel, each week I have a video where I show off the random rolls on the vendor armor and talk about ones that I think are good. Last season there were 4 vendors who sold an armor set with random stat rolls each week. Those were Devrim Kay, Shaxx, Zavala, and the Drifter. Well, this season in addition to those 4 I have 3 more to talk about. A1, Failsafe, and Banshee 44 all have items for me to discuss, with Banshee 44 offering several randomly rolled weapons. Also, most of you who have been with my channel for a while know that in the past I suggested that the armor wasn't really for veteran players. I said that because the armor never really had a high stat total. Well, it turns out that that may not be true anymore. One piece of armor has a total stat of 66 this week. Another thing I want to mention is that this season there is no longer high stat armor available on the season pass. That means that the vendor armor could be more important than ever before, especially for new players. With that said, there are quite a few armor pieces I want to go over this week, but before I do, if you end up enjoying the video or finding it useful, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. First, I'll start by going over armor rolls that stood out to me this week, then a little bit later we will discuss Banshee's weapons. I'll begin with Warlocks. This week Shaxx has chest armor with 28 recovery and 11 strength. Recovery is extremely important to all 3 classes, but even more so for Warlocks since it's tied to the Rift cooldown. If you were to masterwork this piece and add a recovery mod, you would have 40 recovery from one piece of armor. I recommend this piece especially for new players. Shaxx also has a helmet with 24 recovery and 19 strength. This is similar to the last piece, and if you were to masterwork and add recovery mods to both armor pieces, you would have 76 recovery. Then Shaxx is selling leg armor with 30 mobility and 20 discipline with an overall stat of 62. This piece is definitely interesting. I recommend it for the high stats and the decent overall stat, but mobility isn't incredibly useful for Warlocks. Discipline is solid because faster grenade cooldown is never a bad thing. I'm still working through the Warlock armor here, but A1 is selling a helmet with 26 intellect, 14 resilience, and 10 mobility. Intellect is tied to your super cooldown, so if you like having more supers, grab this piece. While resilience really isn't all that useful in PvE content, it is useful against certain weapon types in PvP. Moving on to Titans. We are starting off with that 66 total stat piece I mentioned earlier. Failsafe has leg armor with 16 resilience, intellect, and strength, as well as 14 mobility. While the recovery and discipline are lacking, this could help you round out a build where other pieces max out your recovery and or discipline. Zavala is selling gauntlets with 21 resilience and 12 discipline. This stood out to me a little bit due to the 21 resilience, which is tied to the Titan barricade cooldown. A Titan with high resilience can be great in PvP because you make some of the enemy's weapons less forgiving, as well as having a barricade to throw up more often. Last up, Hunters. Shaxx is selling a helmet with 21 resilience and 16 discipline. Resilience isn't as useful for Hunters, but I've already mentioned the benefits of using it in PvP. Shaxx also has leg armor with 16 discipline, 16 strength, and 13 recovery. While there isn't any one stat that is incredibly high here, the 3 highest stats are all useful to some degree, and this would be a great piece for new players who have armor stats in the mid 50s or lower. The Drifter has leg armor with 26 recovery and 18 intellect. As I mentioned earlier, recovery is important for all 3 classes. It helps you re-engage sooner in both PvP and PvE. This is definitely a solid piece for Hunters. The last piece of armor I have to go over is a helmet being sold by A1. It has 28 resilience, 14 strength, and 10 intellect. With a masterwork and mod, this one piece of armor could reach 40 resilience. Again, I've already discussed the benefits of resilience in PvP. If you only play PvE content, this isn't worth buying. Moving on to the gunsmith weapons this week. Even if you don't care for sidearms, I would still pick up the Lonesome with rapid hit and demolitionist. The roll itself is pretty good, even though I know sidearms are not for everyone. Then I would highly recommend grabbing the Ikilos SMG, especially if you don't have one. This can generate Warmind cells if you're using Warmind cell armor mods. It's also just a solid SMG all around. Dynamic sway reduction helps make this feel more stable, and Surrounded is a decent damage boosting perk in PvE when it's not bugged. Well, that's it for this week's vendor video. It had a little bit more substance than normal, and I hope there's more to talk about like this each week. I just want to thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.